Hello, and welcome to Behind the Fig podcast, where we talk about lovely fanfics people have made. I'm Owlheart, and I'm here with Silver Dragon, and feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Silver Dragon MS, but I go by Silver pretty much everywhere. Um, I write for Linked Universe currently, but I used to write for Undertale before.
All right.
I got it.
So you wrote a one-shot called Sleepless Nights and Starlight.
Yes.
Uh, do you have it pulled up?
I I have all the information from when I wrote that fic pulled up right now. Everything.
Okay. So typically we read. I'm sure Fate has told you this.
No, actually, I've heard nothing.
Oh, okay. So we read either the first chapter or the entire work, depending on how long it is.
Hmm.
Uh, if you don't want to read it right now, you can record and send it to her later.
Hmm. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I can read it now. It's only 1,330 words. That's
Which feels
nothing.
a lot when you say it. Like 1,000.
No, I've read longer stuff, and because I know exactly how this fic goes, I don't think it'd be bad reading it. But also, I don't think I'll have time to record it otherwise.
All right. Then feel free to read it now.
Okay, and I'm gonna take a sip of water before I start, just in case.
Water.
Okay, let's start, I guess. Okay. Sleepless Nights and Starlight. Now I'm just gonna read the summary because it's cute. Sometimes all you need in order to sleep is a friend and a sky full of stars. He had been having strange dreams lately, not that he would tell anyone, though he was sure that if any of the others looked just a bit too closely, they would see the heavy bags under his eyes, how he kept losing track of conversations, and that during a battle he wouldn't move as fluidly as he used to. He tried not to let it show. It wasn't important after all, but it was hard not to get lost in his mind when they made camp. It was all he could think about, memories from before being twisted by his mind while asleep. Images of that final goodbye, the mirror shattering her form until nothing remained. It was worse now, though, as alongside Midna was his mentor, the mirror shattering, twisting his form to that of the shade. Sometimes the other heroes would appear alongside them, always with their smiling faces shattering and scattering as though they were nothing more than glass. He always woke up afterward, shaking and sweating and stifling his cries so he wouldn't bother the others. It's been a week or two since this had started, and he's found himself keeping a closer eye on his companions. Maybe that's why he noticed how differently Four was acting. The smith looked so tired, as though he were lacking sleep. It was worrying. Twilight could feel the need to help the smaller hero growing as they continued, but he wouldn't push it. However, he also wouldn't let him suffer alone. He took the second watch shift that night. Thankfully, no one tried to argue with him over it. He figured it was luck that no one noticed just how tired he was. He was going to use that to his advantage. Twilight wouldn't admit that he stayed awake during the first watch. He just couldn't find a way to fall asleep, not with the guaranteed nightmare that would leave him wide awake the rest of the night. He faked sleep, acting as though the previous watchman, Sky, had in fact woken him up rather than what had actually happened. As soon as the chosen hero laid in his bedroll, immediately falling asleep as was usually the case, Twilight began to circle the perimeter of the camp, listening closely to the world around them for signs of monsters. It was peaceful for once, the only sounds being that of crickets and the distant calls of owls and geese. He was tempted to transform, if only to be certain they wouldn't be attacked during the night, but something made him pause. Instinct had him returning to camp, though he had no clue why he should, at least until he heard a gasp. Twilight saw when the smallest hero bolted upright, clenching and unclenching his fists on the edge of the blanket he had draped over him. He kept blinking, squeezing his eyes shut for a minute, then opening them, and for a moment Twilight thought he saw the hero's eyes flicker with different colors each time. He chalked it up to the light of the campfire playing tricks on his vision as he made his way over to Forth's side. He made sure to keep his footsteps audible, though taking care not to wake the lighter sleepers. You all right? The smith flinched at his words. Seems his efforts to not startle him were in vain, his gaze eventually meeting Twilight's own. I'm fine, he whispered. Just a stupid dream. Did you want to talk about it or something? Twilight asked, moving closer and debating whether he should sit down or stay standing. He didn't want to make the other uncomfortable, though it seemed his thoughts were unwarranted as Four patted the spot next to him, beside him, inviting the other hero to sit. As he took a seat, Four looked up at the stars, slightly obscured by the light of the campfire crackling in the center of camp. A moment passed, Four closing his eyes and just breathing. I think, he spoke up, Twilight watching as the smith spoke slowly and collected his thoughts. I just need someone near me. I don't know if I should talk about it right now. That's up to you, Twilight responded, a small smile making its way onto his face. Whatever you want to do, I'll be right here for you. Four nodded, a relieved sigh escaping his lips. He stood up for a moment, taking the blanket with him and settling closer to Twilight, leaning into his side and watching the stars. Twilight couldn't help but feel contented joy warm his chest and smile warmly at the small form cuddled into his side. He figured he'd join in and watch the stars as time passed. He knew that quiet nights like this were rare and that any moment to indulge in peace like this was a moment that needed to be taken. Hey, Four, he whispered, the smith making a questioning noise in response. Do you know any constellations? A few, though I don't really remember them. Do you want me to point out a few that I know? Four shifted slightly, wrapping the blanket around his shoulders and nodding slightly. Twilight smiled as he looked closer at the sky, searching for the pictures that Russell had long ago shown him. See that ring of stars over there a bit to the right? That one's called the Ordona, the great Ordon goat. Four chuckled softly. I've never heard of that one before. That's probably because you're so far in the past, it hasn't been discovered yet. Twilight continued pointing out stars and constellations he had been taught back in Ordon. He would never admit that he made up a few that night himself. It wasn't long until he felt the slight weight against his chest increase ever so slightly, looking down to see that Four had fallen back asleep against him. He was tempted to move him back to his bedroll, but he felt that it would only lead to another sleepless night, and besides, he was comfortable. He found the stick the group had used to poke at the fire, the end only slightly warm from where it had been closest to the fire. He grabbed the scorched end, and carefully used it to poke the veteran hero who had volunteered for the next watch. Legend had looked surprised seeing him sitting down with the smallest hero nestled in his side, but he said nothing, simply putting his short sword sheath on and beginning to walk the perimeter of the camp. It was quiet once again, peaceful with the sounds of night creatures and the slight breeze rustling the leaves of the woods surrounding them. Twilight carefully leaned back, moving his wolf pelt to act as a makeshift pillow as he laid on the ground. Four only shifted slightly, getting more comfortable and using Twilight's arm as his own pillow. He would never admit how much the smallest of them reminded him of nights spent in Russell and Uli's home, sharing a bed with a much younger Colin in much the same position. It was comforting in a way, and soon he found himself drifting off, thoughts of home and family filling his mind. The next day he discovered that he had slept through the night, no nightmares plaguing him, and looking back at Four, it seemed that the same had been true for him. Hey, Four, Twilight nudged the other, disrupting him from finishing packing up for the journey ahead. If you, ever need someone to lean on when you're having a rough night, I'm always willing to lend an ear, though I guess lending a side would make more sense. Four laughed, Twilight joining in, much to the confusion of the camp save for the ever-smug veteran. The laughter tapered off, Four turning to face him properly with eyes shining brightly, happily. I'd appreciate that, Twi, he smiled. And thank you. Anytime.
Oh my goodness, I love cute little fluffy moments like that.
I just, I'm reading it again and I'm just smiling. I forgot how awesome this fic turned out.
Oh, I'm so glad you're proud of it. It's so nice when you're proud of something that you've worked hard on.
Yeah, this is probably only the second thing I've written that I've been this proud of.
Well, I'm glad I get to talk it over with you. Um, so the stargazing scene was really nice. Well, now, okay, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to transition. Moving on to questions now. I'm gonna
Okay.
ask all of the questions since I don't have access to the Tumblr questions,
Mm,
and Fate isn't here.
lovely.
Um, so the stargazing scene was really nice. I mean, like, obviously it was an integrated part of the story.
Mhm.
Do you have any personal connotations with stargazing?
Mm, well, I guess. I don't know. I mean, kind of, but not really. It's like, because I used to be in like scouts. when I was younger. And I remember like the scout camp with the platform tents and all that nonsense. And I remember this one time, or maybe we did it a few times. We walked this, not really a trail. We basically walked on the main road, but we were in the woods still. And we walked to this like clearing. And I remember the troop leader saying, "Okay, everyone, turn off your flashlights, but make sure you're still holding on to the person next to you's hand." And when we did, the sky like lit up. And because I had lived in like the city for pretty much my entire life, that was like the first time that I saw the sky like properly.
Oh goodness, that must have been magical.
It was. And I mean, I still think that stars and all the mythology with starlight or with stargazing is super interesting.
Yeah, stars are beautiful. The night sky
They
in
really
general.
are.
That's the one reason high school is allowed to wake me up early. It's because I get to see the stars on my way out to the bus.
uh nice. Wish I could relate to that. Unfortunately, I am still living in the city.
Goodness, I'm so glad I get to see the stars. I wish I could show them to you like every day. I mean, like I wish everyone could see the stars every day.
Same. I would love to just go somewhere just to see the stars again. Heck, maybe I'll write a sequel to this if that ever ends up happening.
All right, so you mentioned this was a gift for someone in the beginning, I believe.
Yes, yeah, or maybe I didn't, but yeah, this was a gift for
Yeah, it was
someone.
part of the summer
Uh,
solstice gift exchange.
yes. Okay,
Uh,
okay.
did that person inspire it?
So I actually have the original prompt pulled up too. I'm so
Oh,
happy that this ended up saving. Okay, so how that gift exchange went was the person gave you maybe two characters and three different prompts. And I just kind of did a mix of a few of them because Kyo was the person's name, wanted Twilight and Four. Uh, said I'm fine with anything, but I'm a major sucker for angsty stories with or without comfort. And angst is actually my specialty, but I wanted to try something a little bit different, I guess. And one of the prompts said soft, any of the boys comforting each other. Honestly, just pure wholesomeness. Maybe one is too shaken up after a battle slash nightmare slash whatever. Just some lads being nice to each other. So
oh.
nothing about stargazing or anything. I honestly don't know where that came from. I think it might have
Sometimes magical gifts of prophecy bestow themselves upon us.
maybe. I think part of it though, gosh, when did I write this? June 2020. So what was going on at that time? Oh wait, was this oh, hang on. This might have been before my huge burnout that I had, actually. Yeah, yeah, this was near the beginning of the pandemic, kind of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just a burst of inspiration. I don't remember if I was allowed to go back to work yet. So it might have just been trying to figure this out, what I could write. And I knew that I wanted something with nightmares
Hmm.
because who doesn't love a good fic with nightmares? Because it seems like, yeah, that was the first thing that I wrote was the Twilight nightmare scene.
Hmm.
But, I don't know where everything else came from.
You have such good records of this. I'd be like, I wrote it probably at
I
some
wrote
point
it on
in time.
Google Docs and you can see the version history, so that's
Oh,
the only
right.
reason.
The absolute majesty of that.
I know, right? It's
But
honestly.
speaking of the nightmares, where'd the nightmare concept come from? Like, do you remember if there were any prompts for that? It had a good description.
Hmm. Because I think I was playing in my mind with the whole. Oh wait, no, I remember the whole mirror shattering thing. I think it was because originally I wanted to have Four talk about what his nightmare was, and because it's me, it would have been about a mirror shattering, specifically the dark mirror. And I don't know if you've seen the Four Swords manga before.
Unfortunately, not.
Ooh, I might spoil it then if I talk about it.
I will probably forget to read it.
Okay. I have a PDF I can give it to you later. Okay. So basically, uh, not really the main antagonist. more like the anti-hero, I guess. Shadow breaks the dark mirror, which not only powers like Body, the evil villain, but also is his own life force, and he destroys it in front of the Four Sword heroes and basically dies in front of them. And
That's dark.
kind of similar to Twilight with Midna, because like she shattered the mirror and left him. So it's sort of like similar in a way, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's something they can both relate to. And I guess originally I did want to have Four talk about his nightmare, but then I realized I thought it wouldn't be as genuine, I guess. I guess it just would make more sense if he didn't want to talk about it yet, that it
Mm.
wasn't quite the right time.
Didn't feel like it would fit the story's flow.
Just, it seemed too forced, I guess.
Hmm.
That might have been part of it too, because I've read so many fanfics for LU, and there's a lot with nightmares in them, because I definitely love those kinds of stories. But just like as much as I love them, the talking about your nightmares thing, just sometimes it's not the right time, I guess. Doesn't always have to be the right time to talk about trauma and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just a personal opinion. I still love reading every single story that deals with any sorts of angst.
We all have our favorites.
Of course.
All right. Question about your writing. Do you
Oh,
find that
oh.
words flow like on their own, or do you do better with like the outline?
So how I outline my stories is very weird, I think, compared to how I've seen other people outline
Oh my god,
anything
there's a
really.
normal way to do it.
I don't know. Because I do it like, call it vague outlining. Because I do this with my research papers too, actually, where I'll take like, those block, what is it? Not parentheses, but like the blocky ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll like take those and I'll write basically a word vomit prompt for what I'm going to write or what's going to happen. And then I just kind of work off of that later on. And as for like when words flow, it's heavily, heavily dependent on what kind of mood I'm in. Because
Hmm.
what was it? There was something that I wrote in like a day, I think. I don't. Oh, wait, yes. Spur of the moment live writes back when I was able to do those. There's a few fics that I think I've written in a day with little to no editing. Granted, none of them I think I'm very happy with, but yeah, it really depends on the prompt and the mood I'm in and whether or not I have other things I should be doing.
All right, so more questions.
Okay.
Do you feel like the story was the right length?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's actually kind of a perfect length. Though I guess the ending maybe could have, I don't know, had a better, less awkward ending, but I think it kind of fit for the characters at the same time.
Speaking of those characters, what do you like about them?
Oh my god. Okay, okay, okay. So, you can't see right now, but I actually am currently holding a plushie that I commissioned my favorite artist to make, and it's a four.
That sounds awesome.
Four is my favorite character for so many reasons, but I guess the main one is he's just such a fascinating character to me. Because so my minor is psychology. I really love thinking about how people act because of like their situations and stuff. And because four is, technically, I guess, four people, one body. It's just like there's so much you can do with that. And just like diving deep into like why you act the way you do is just that's my thing.
Hmm.
And then for Twilight, this is like the most basic of basic answers, but Twilight Princess was my first Zelda game. And the wrestling scene lives rent free in my head.
What are some headcanons you have of them?
um hmm. I have so many written on on my writing Tumblr actually. Uh I I'm trying to now bring them up. That's like the one thing I don't have pulled up right
Whoop.
now.
Should I ask a different question?
No, I can answer it. I just need to think for a second about what the headcanons are. I mean, today I did a lot of like self projection onto the characters, so I guess I could go into some of that. I
Yes.
project onto Ford the most, so I I like to say Ford is a non-binary icon. Sometimes he pronouns, sometimes they pronouns. But I do really like Ford using they and them just because it's very validating for me.
Mm.
Um, and then I guess just because of the self projection from earlier today that he has some arthritis in his hand from all the work he does in like the forge because getting all those little details, you know, can kind of up your hand. And I my hand is kind of up from how I type and how I work and do things.
The abuse we accidentally do to ourselves.
Basically. I should probably get that looked at some point, but anyway. For Twilight, remember any of like the gender sexuality headcanons that I had for him specifically. Though I know that I have some that are just sitting around somewhere. Um, but for what I wrote today, it's not really self projection, but I just like to think that because he did the whole trans wolf to Hylian transformation so many times, his senses got a little as well. Am I allowed to swear here?
Think fate might have to bleep it out. I don't know.
Ah,
I probably should have mentioned
whoops. Should have ended that sooner.
that sooner.
Okay, okay.
It's okay. Other people cuss too. I think the only reason I haven't cussed yet is just that I don't talk enough.
I can try and fix so that it's easier to edit. um, so I had canon from Twilight's constant transformation from wolf to Hylian kind of screwed up his senses a little bit, so he gets uh what's the word? Overwhelmed or overstimulated or whatever that word is supposed to be uh kind of often because his hearing is increased, his sense of smell is increased, and then he's slightly colorblind. Not completely, but some. Trying to think of something else. I think it would be funny if he had some more wolf-like tendencies too, but that's just because it's mean. Are you just trying to find what the next question is?
Sorry. He glitched
Chill.
out a bit. I wondered if you would still have more to say.
No, no. I don't think I've got anything more. I just ended with that I'm mean to the characters, and I am. I will fully
Aren't
admit
we all?
that.
I mean, seriously, who is nice to their muse?
Mm, if you're a fluff writer and can't write angst.
Okay, fair enough. um, what's typically your favorite part about writing?
hmm. Ah, it's a question, isn't it? Um, hmm. I'm honestly not 100% because what I write again really depends on my mood.
Right,
So
right.
I guess like the payoff is kind of nice. I gotta admit. I love the comments that say, "I can't believe you. I can't believe you did this to my favorite character." Like those are the best. The screaming and the crying. It's wonderful.
Mm.
But then sometimes it's just like nice to just let loose on like if you're upset about something, you can then have the characters be upset about something, and then that just kind of feels validating. Or
Yeah,
maybe you make them have some comfort after being sad or something, and then that's just like maybe because you want to be comforted, or maybe it's just I don't know, just nice, just something nice for yourself. It's like a present to yourself.
totally is.
Hmm.
All right, I believe I'm out of questions. I should have like highlighted them or crossed them out as I went. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
um, I mean, about this fic in particular, let me see if there's anything else that I kind of wanted to bring up. I have that just pulled up. Oh, I guess I could probably say that the title from this fic actually wasn't technically just my idea because I was struggling with the title for this thing for a bit, and I actually went into Kyo's DMs on Discord and said, "I don't have any ideas, and because it's your gift, you should get to pick out the name." And Kyo came up with Sleepless Nights, and I took that. And alliteration's kind of fun, so I decided. Uh, I said, "I think that's a great title." And I had a thought. What about Sleepless Nights and Starlight? And
Hmm.
Kyo gave it the all clear, and that's now the name.
It has a nice rhythm to it.
It really does, and I don't know, it just kind of cozy, I guess. It
Yeah.
feels right, I guess.
All
Not many
right.
fics that have titles that just kind of like fit, or at least none, not
Sometimes the
many of
title
them.
never comes, sometimes it fits just right.
Mhm. I can think of maybe a few fics that have titles that fit just right, and I'm trying to keep that flow going.
Right. I think that's everything. I'm pretty sure that's everything.
Wow, okay.
I mean, um,
I mean, like,
I'm looking over things.
I can't really think of anything else to talk about for this particular fic, I guess. I can think about, like,
If
talking
you
about
want to
other
talk about your
things.
writing in general,
Could talk about other things that I'm currently trying to do when I'm not working on all of the research papers I have to
goodness.
do. um, actually did touch, I guess the part 3 to this one series that I'm working on currently, or trying to work on. I finally got a burst of inspiration, yesterday? Uh, it's called, the fic title is called Distorted Reflections. Um, I know I'm going to pass this recording on to a bunch of my friends, so they probably kind of know what's coming. Um, but I mean, that fic, I'm going to probably be the worst to all of the characters too. But I'm gonna try and do all the topics that I'm gonna touch on in that justice because I don't want to be cruel, but I'm also going to be cruel, if that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense. Sometimes stories, they write themselves,
Hmm.
It's not my fault.
I, I will admit, technically, the story is done. I wrote it as a live write. Actually, I think before Sleepless Nights and Starlights got written, and what I finished that within a week, 2 weeks, just during when the pandemic started. Um, so technically, it's all written, but then I realized that it didn't fit with what I was trying to go for anymore. So I'm in the process of rewriting the whole thing.
Goodness.
And
Well,
it's
hopefully you'll be happier with it when you finish.
oh, I hope I will, because I remember by the end of it, I was starting to hate quite a few characters.
Oh.
It wasn't great.
Is it going better for you right now?
I mean, I haven't even finished with first chapter yet, but I mean, I did get a very nice description of if you've ever played Hyrule Warriors, the Valley of Seers. Actually, writing descriptions is probably one of my favorite things to try and do because sometimes they just are perfect, and that feels
Hmm.
very nice.
That satisfaction of setting up a scene just right.
Mm-hmm. Just, mm. Honestly, I think that was kind of what happened in the Sleepless Nights and Starlight too. Actually, just trying to set the scene, talking about like how the night is and with all the stars and all the everything, just cozy.
Very peaceful to envision.
hmm
Okay.
I'm honestly not sure what to talk about, man. I don't know what to
Yeah.
do.
Goodness. All right. So, seeing as I'm out of questions, um, we've read the story. That's like the two things on my checklist.
No,
um,
and Fate has like all the other questions.
yeah.
Mm.
So I believe both of our accounts will be linked in the description along with the story. Uh, if you, well, I mean, it was a one shot, so like,
Mhm.
it's been shared. I'm
Mhm.
sure you can also find other stories
Mm.
written just as wonderfully. Um,
That's too
and
kind.
I have the innate feeling that I'm forgetting something, but
I mean, I'll be honest. I can probably make time if I need to come in for another recording. I can probably squeeze something in.
alright. Hopefully, I've got everything though.
Mhm.
Okay! That was such a delight. Um, your fic was wonderful.
I'm glad you liked it.
And it was so much fun talking to you. So,
I was talking
um,
to you as well.
alright. Done. I am now going to go to bed. Good night.
Oh, it's nighttime for you.
Not really. I just go to sleep early.
Uh,
Because
and you're
apparently I actually respect my sleep schedule.
can't relate. But then also apparently you are a high school student.
Yeah.
I am a junior in college.
Well, I hope all of your research papers go well.
I hope so too, man.
And bye.
Bye.
Oh,